tonight, surrendered. A member of Canada's 2018 World Juniors hockey team turns himself in to police. Alex Formanton faces charges in connection with an alleged group sexual assault.
There's international spotlight on this, for sure.
Exposing the larger issue of sexual violence in sport. The Conservatives ready to shake up the next session.
Life wasn't like this before Justin Trudeau, and it won't be like this after he's gone.
MPs prepare for a return to Parliament. As politicians past and present pay their respects to longtime NDP leader Ed Broadbent.
He never forgot who we fight for.
Plus, from local flavor to worldwide frenzy.
I delete probably 200 comments a day. They're over the top.
A heated debate over a fried favorite goes viral.
CTV National News with Heather Butts.
Good evening. Serious sexual assault allegations are once again putting Canada's game front and centre, with all eyes on London, Ontario, where a former member of Canada's World Junior hockey team turned himself in to police. Lawyers for Alex Formanton say he's one of several players facing charges. CTV's Adrian Gobriel starts us off.
A sexual assault claim that has rocked the foundation of Canada's game. Alex Formanton surrendered to London Police Services this morning. The former Ottawa senator is believed to be the first of 5 players from Canada's 2018 World Junior hockey team to turn himself in to face sexual assault allegations. Formanton's lawyer confirms that the 24-year-old is one of several players facing charges. A statement from his lawyer, Daniel Brown, says that Alex will vigorously defend his innocence and ask that people not rush to judgment without hearing all of the evidence.
There's international spotlight on this, for sure.
A Globe and Mail story this week first reported that the pending charges are connected to an alleged group sexual assault of a woman inside this upscale London, Ontario hotel in June 2018 following a Hockey Canada gala. A lawsuit filed in April of 2022 states that an alleged female victim met a group of young men at a bar following the gala and had consensual sex with one of the players. She also alleges that afterwards, 7 others entered the room, directed, manipulated, and intimidated her into remaining in the room where she says she was sexually assaulted.
I have concerns about the viability of this prosecution, given the investigation that has been carried out to date.
The London Police Service was first made aware of the allegations just days after the alleged sexual assault took place in 2018, but at the time declined to lay any charges.
You believe another police force should be leading this investigation?
I do. They are going to be questions, for sure, throughout this trial. I know as defense counsel, I would be on that.
A separate investigation into another sexual assault claim, this time against Canada's 2002-2003 World Junior team, is also underway. Lawyer and victim advocate Jillian Nachu believes the curtain needs to be pulled back on the culture of sport in Canada.
You believe there needs to be a national inquiry?
I do. There is a real sort of endemic culture when you have young athletes who this country exalts and will look the other way as long as they continue to produce the results.
In recent days, 5 players from the 2018 World Junior squad have taken a leave from their respective teams. 4 from the NHL and Formanton, who now plays in Switzerland after a 109-game stint with the Ottawa Senators. The identity of the other players involved in the allegations have yet to be confirmed by the authorities.
Investigators won't be speaking publicly until February 5th, the Monday after the NHL All-Star Weekend. When asked why they're waiting so long, the London Police Services declined to share a specific reason. Heather?
CTV's Adrian Gobriel in Toronto. Family members of a missing Palestinian Canadian in Gaza are urging the federal government to take action. Mansour Shoman has been a frequent guest on CTV News, often sharing his story from inside the enclave. While they're pleading for help, Palestinians are calling for more aid after several countries pulled funding to Gaza's largest relief agency. CTV's Kamal Kramali reports.
So, What's going on now in Khan Yunis?
This is one of the last videos Mansour Shoman posted from Gaza just a week ago. The Canadian now missing.
There are 3 eyewitness accounts that on Tuesday, when he was making his way from Khan Yunis to Rafah, that he was arrested by IDF.
His family,
I just miss him so much. I hope he is safe.
Fears the worst. Shoman left Canada 2 years ago, moving back to Gaza with his wife and 5 children. When the war broke out, his family escaped.
Gaza is not alone.
But he stayed.
He loves to help people, and he doesn't like injustice.
Global Affairs says it's aware of a Canadian missing in Gaza and continues to monitor the situation closely. An online petition calls for Ottawa to step in at a time Canada has taken a step back in providing aid to the region, one of multiple countries that has now paused funding after allegations that a United Nations relief agency in Gaza included a dozen staff members involved in Hamas's October attack in Israel. The UN and Arab leaders calling the pause on funding dangerous.
The countries that have announced this suspension, their aid amounts to 70% of the annual budget.
Caught in all of this are the people on the ground, Palestinians starving, and Israeli families with hostages still trapped in Gaza. Today, a conference held in Jerusalem pushing for an Israeli resettlement in Gaza. Without settlement, there is no security, says the finance minister. Israel also met with the U.S., Qatar, and Egypt in Paris today to try and negotiate the release of hostages. Reports now coming in that the talks were, quote, constructive. Heather.
Thanks, Kamal. The White House is vowing retaliation after 3 troops were killed and dozens more wounded in a drone strike on a military base in the Middle East.
And we shall respond.
President Joe Biden blames Iran-backed militants for the attack, which took place near Jordan's border with Syria. It's the first time American military personnel have been killed by enemy fire in the region since the start of the Israel-Hamas war on October 7th. Pro-Palestinian groups in Toronto took calls for a ceasefire directly to members of parliament.
When I say cease, you say fire! Cease! Fire! Cease! Fire!
Demonstrators gathered outside the offices of several Liberal MPs, calling for more government intervention to help end the conflict. The rallies come days after the UN's top court ordered Israel to prevent acts of genocide in Gaza, but stopped short of calling for an immediate ceasefire. And a show of support for the Jewish community in Fredericton after a synagogue was vandalized, leaving their sense of security shattered. The troubling discovery happened on Holocaust Remembrance Day. CTV's Derek Haggett has more.
A crowd of around 150 people gathered outside the Skuli Israel synagogue in downtown Fredericton Sunday. Glass windows shattered yesterday in an act of vandalism, now repaired. A sign the Jewish community is healing a day after an unsettling incident on International Holocaust Remembrance Day.
The words were great yesterday, but this is so much more meaningful and so really touching in a really real way.
After the brief rally, Rabbi Yosef Goldman invited those in attendance inside the synagogue to listen for some words of encouragement and as a way to say thank you to the community. The province's Minister of Justice and Public Safety had strong words for those responsible.
You know, these cowardly acts just aren't going to be tolerated, and I think when you look around and you see so many different people really coming together and sharing that same message, I think is powerful.
I mean, we're seeing a rise in anti-Semitism, a rise in hate, and so it still hurts when it's so close to home.
The Fredericton Police Force says the incident is under investigation and hasn't determined whether it was a possible hate crime.
At this point, it's too early to tell. We can't ignore the possibility, but at this point, we're just, again, early in the investigation. We're just trying to get as much information as possible.
And while the shattered windows may be repaired, the incident has stunned a lot of people in the city.
The Holocaust Memorial Day was yesterday, and I find that the timing was particularly cruel.
The people who are here today were Jews, were Muslims, were Christians, or atheists, and we will be there if a mosque is attacked, if a church is attacked. We have to have the rule of law in this country, and that means protecting places of worship.
The synagogue does not have security cameras, and there are no suspects as of yet. Derek Haggett, CTV News, Fredericton.
Safety and security of Canadians will be top of mind when MPs return to the House of Commons tomorrow following a 6-week pause. The Liberals and NDPs held strategy sessions for the new year, while the Conservatives drilled down on matters at a final meeting this weekend. CTV's Colton Prail on what's at stake, heading back to the Hill.
After cruising through 2023 in the back of a clear economic message, it's full steam ahead for Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives in 2024.
Life wasn't like this before Justin Trudeau, and it won't be like this after he's gone.
Heading into a new sitting of Parliament, polling has the Conservatives maintaining a sizable lead over the Liberals, while Poilievre remains most Canadians' preferred choice for Prime Minister.
Conservatives will fight throughout this session to axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, stop the crime.
And it won't take long. Poilievre will have his first opportunity to target the carbon tax on day one, when a private member's bill calling for more carbon tax exemptions for farmers returns to the House floor after it was sent back by the Senate.
If you think about it now, here we are at the end of January. There's going to be a big heating bill come likely in February for January. So they're thinking about that, and they're likely still thinking about paying for Christmas.
But the new sitting will also bring a return to an old topic, with the Conservatives promising a renewed focus on crime and Canada's bail policies. This after the Prime Minister announced a national summit in February to deal with the rise in auto thefts.
What's worked for the Conservatives in 2023 is a laser focus on economic issues and a bit of a softening of Pierre Poilievre.
And that laser focus on pocketbook issues hasn't shifted, even after a federal court ruled against the government on the Emergencies Act and an inquiry into election interference begins tomorrow. The Conservatives aren't straying from a message that's brought them so much success in the polls. Heather.
Colton Prail in Ottawa. A legal battle is brewing in a suburban city north of Montreal, which could have far-reaching effects on how communities deal with the homeless. CTV's Matt Grillo on a bylaw some argue is unconstitutional.
Homeless advocates say it's a recent phenomenon in Quebec. 10 cities or encampments popping up.
We're seeing this in Quebec now for the first time, really, in the last number of years.
A legal battle is underway to prevent 10 cities from being dismantled north of Montreal. The Mobile Legal Clinic has filed a lawsuit against the city of St. Jerome. In 2022, St. Jerome passed a bylaw prohibiting the installation of tents. Lawyers for the homeless community say that's unconstitutional.
The argument is that by effectively removing the encampment, you are putting them on the streets, increasing the risk to health, increasing their risk even to the right to life, which is directly at play here with people who are exposed to the elements. So these are very, very serious constitutional allegations.
Human rights lawyer Pearl Eliadis is not involved with the case, but she says if the Mobile Legal Clinic wins, it could set a precedent in Quebec.
Having that decision in Quebec, I think, would start to reverse what I see as a very negative trend in Quebec.
The Mobile Legal Clinic did not want to comment on the case. In a statement, the city of St. Jerome says it works closely with the local regional health authority to help the homeless. As a city council, we have at heart the well-being and safety of all citizens, including people experiencing homelessness. The population has also asked us to improve various aspects of security. St. Jerome refused all other comment. In its lawsuit, the Mobile Legal Clinic says every night between 40 and 50 people sleep outside in St. Jerome, but only 6 beds are available in emergency shelters. Matt Grillo, CTV News, Montreal.
Coming up, remembering a political giant.
He believed very strongly that government was a force for good.
Ed Broadbent honored at a state funeral as a champion for Canadians. Hundreds gathered for Mass in northern Italy this weekend to mourn 2 skiers killed in a helicopter crash Monday in BC. Friends and family filled the Bolzano Cathedral. The bodies of the victims were recovered from the wreckage today. They remained on the mountain for 6 days because of poor weather conditions. He was known by many as Honest Ed. Today, former NDP leader Ed Broadbent brought together a large crowd of politicians and dignitaries for a state funeral, honoring his life and legacy. Here's CTV's Jeremy Charon.
Hundreds lined this downtown Ottawa street, gathering here to honor and celebrate a towering figure in Canadian politics.
Canada was Ed's village. He loved to go about in this city where he had long established relationships with people who worked in grocery stores and bookstores, pharmacies, dry cleaners, restaurants. They all called him Ed.
Family, friends, and former colleagues gathered with current and former politicians of all stripes to pay their respects to Ed Broadbent. Only the fourth person in Canadian history not named a Prime Minister, Governor General, or sitting minister to receive a state funeral.
Ed was an extraordinarily important part of modern Canadian history. He was a tireless campaigner for social justice.
Broadbent was first elected to Parliament in 1968. He was an MP for 21 years and led the federal NDP for 14.
We are so fortunate that he chose to spend his life in pursuit of his vision and his hope for justice and fairness for all. We will never forget him. And Ed, we won't let you down. And you're still who I want to be when I grow up.
Ed Broadbent was well respected by even his political adversaries amid his fierce fight towards social democracy.
Ed was a relentless force for good in our beloved Canada. He embodied this in the political victories that he helped to secure for Indigenous rights and environmental justice, for gender equity.
And even after politics, he didn't quite give up the game. In 2011, he founded the Broadbent Institute, an Ottawa-based political think tank.
I bow to you and hold up my lamp to light you on your way. Au revoir, Ed.
Ed Broadbent passed away on January 11th. He was 87. Jeremy Charon, CTV News, Ottawa.
Still ahead, a regal retreat. The plans to share the keys to this Cape Breton castle with the community. Canada's real estate market is a daunting place these days. $1 million might get you a small home in cities like Toronto or Vancouver, but on the East Coast, it could score you a castle nestled on Nova Scotia's Cape Breton Island. CTV's Atlantic Bureau Chief Christian Ashkate reports.
Tucked along the Trans-Canada Highway in Cape Breton, Nova Scotia, sits a castle fit for a king or queen, complete with $1 million lakeside view across the road.
It was the 163 acres of nature, I think, that struck me as a place that I could go to and a lot of people could go to for solitude.
Built in 1992, the nearly 10,000 square foot property was a 5-star bed and breakfast with 11 bedrooms and 18 bathrooms, along with a commercial kitchen, dining rooms, a sauna, and a wine cellar.
It took me 6 tours with my friends and family to know exactly what was where, and so there you go. The size of it is just incredible.
The property went back on the market in November for just under $1 million and sold to Elaine Knight from London, Ontario the following month, who was close to retiring after a career in healthcare.
I just thought it'd be a great place to work from and to share with other people in the community.
It was first owned by a retired auto industry couple from Ontario, with the late husband building the castle as an anniversary gift to his wife. Then 2 siblings from Nova Scotia purchased it in 2018. Knight says she has numerous plans for the castle, including weddings, retreats, and community fundraisers.
I was there a couple of weeks ago and there was some deer on the front lawn drinking from the brook, and I just thought, this is the place that I want to spend my golden years.
And by mid or late summer, you too could one day live in Nova Scotia royalty, if only for a little while. Christian Ashkate, CTV News, Bucklaw, Nova Scotia.
This next little haven may not be as fit for a royal, but it's got a group of ice fishers hooked. A crew in Saskatchewan found this aircraft for sale online and turned it into a one-of-a-kind ice fishing shack. Proudly grounded on Last Mountain Lake, their creation is taking flight on social media and attracting visitors. The crew says they're excited to catch more fish from the gutted plane until the end of March. After the break, the catch of social media. The search for the best fish and chips on the East Coast goes viral. We leave you tonight with a fish tale that started in Newfoundland and has gone global. Not the kind that happens on the water, but in the kitchen. A quest for the best fish and chips has started quite the debate online. CTV's Garrett Berry takes a bite out of this story.
The debate has raged for years in St. John's. Maybe Scampers or Leo's or the Duke serves up the best feed. For Jeff Meeker, now there's a few thousand new contestants.
And now I'm adding 1,000 a day, so it's gone nuts.
His Facebook group, titled Best Fish and Chips, was a modest group for about 5 years. Then, almost out of nowhere, it blew up.
I think the algorithm in Facebook is everything in this case.
They're chiming in from Ireland to Spain and the UK, showing off their catch. And sometimes the debate gets heated.
Very spirited. I delete probably 200 comments a day just because they're over the top, they're mean, they use bad language.
The key to a good fry, for one Newfoundland restaurant owner, it's to not overpower the product.
For me, it's I don't like a heavy batter. So very light batter, crispy. You know, you're paying for fish, not batter, right?
And as you can see online, regional differences are everything. But what is it about a simple deep-fried meal that captures so much attention?
You know, our deep-fried fish and our pan-fried cod is definitely probably our most popular dish, yeah, for sure.
In Newfoundland, we see fish and chips as being ours. And in some places they don't, because they didn't grow up with it, but where they do feel that way, they feel strongly that way.
Moderating his group can be a demanding task. There's enough work in it that Meeker's recruited help. And he'll get right back to approving posts and moderating comments after one more meal, of course. Garrett Berry, CTV News, St. John's.
Looks tasty. That's it for us tonight. I'm Heather Butts. For all of us at CTV National News, thank you for watching. Omar and Sandy are back tomorrow, and I'll see you again on Friday. Good night.
CTV National News, Canada's #1 newscast.